Hello everyone. Welcome again to this video series in which we discuss issues related to applied linguistics. In this video, we are going to talk about curriculum development in language teaching. We are going to cover the following points. We will start with some basic definitions of curriculum and curriculum development, and then we will proceed with presenting the main processes of curriculum development and finally conclude with different designs of curriculum development. First, let's agree on a definition of the key terms. According to Richards, curriculum refers to the overall plan or design for a course and how the content of this course is transformed into a blueprint for teaching and learning, which enables the desired learning outcomes to be achieved. The same line of thought has been maintained by Wiggins and McTighe, stating that curriculum takes content and shapes it into a plan for how to conduct effective teaching and learning. It is a map for how to achieve the outputs of desired students' performance. What we can take from these two definitions is that a curriculum is a plan that is designed for selecting, presenting, and teaching the content of a course in order to achieve some predetermined outcomes or objectives. This plan also includes evaluation procedures that measure the extent to which the course has helped learners to achieve the intended objectives or learning outcomes. Curriculum development, according to Richards, refers to the process of making decisions about what to teach, how to teach it, and how to assess or measure what is learned. In other words, it is the study of the goals, content, implementation, and evaluation of an educational system, a teaching program, or a course. In light of this definition, one can understand that curriculum development consists of setting the learning objectives, selecting the contents to be taught, designing a method of implementation, and finally deciding on the procedures which should be followed in order to evaluate the effectiveness of the curriculum. Richards claims that developing a language teaching curriculum requires the collection of data which serves as input to the curriculum development. So, before we start curriculum development, we need first to collect information about the target language that we intend to teach, such as its linguistic varieties, language usage, and the context in which it is used. Second, we need to collect information about the learners such as their age, gender, occupations, motivation, interests, needs, attitudes, proficiency, and learning styles. Third, we need to collect data related to the delivery system, including information about the teaching-learning context, which includes collecting information about schools, classrooms, institutions, administrators, teachers, materials, and the timing allotted to the teaching-learning process. The fourth type of data to be collected is related to the learning theory. This step consists of deciding on the most suitable second language acquisition theory that will facilitate the learning process. After this, we need to collect data that inform the teaching theory, which specifies the exact teaching techniques, strategies, and methods to be adopted by teachers. Finally, curriculum developers have to determine the procedures that they think are most effective in evaluating and assessing difficulties that are faced by teachers, learners, administrators, and material designers. Once we have collected these pieces of information, we can engage in the task of curriculum development, which in turn is composed of 5 processes or 5 stages: needs analysis, goal setting, syllabus design, methodology, and evaluation. Curriculum development starts with a needs analysis that allows to identify the needs of learners, teachers, administrators, and future employers. The process of needs analysis serves 3 principal functions. First, it provides a description of the language needs in real-world situations. Second, it offers a description of the types of tasks and activities in which learners need to engage so that they could function well in different contexts and situations. Third, needs analysis gives a description of the language skills, behaviors, attitudes, and motivations which language learners must possess in order to become successful language learners. The second process of curriculum development is that of goal setting. Goal setting consists of identifying the objectives of the teaching learning program. They are generally related to the improvement of the language proficiency of the learner with regard to the mastery of the four skills: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Generally speaking, four types of objectives must be determined while planning a language curriculum. These refer to behavioral objectives, content objectives, process objectives, and proficiency objectives. Behavioral objectives describe the behaviors which learners should be able to perform, such as listening, speaking, reading, or writing, as well as the conditions under which they should perform them and the criteria which allow the assessment of the learner's performance of the behavior. In short, behavioral objectives describe the linguistic behavior, its context, and the criteria for evaluating its appropriateness. Process-related objectives specify the processes, techniques, and strategies which learners are expected to use in order to perform a certain task or behavior. If the behavior to be performed, for example, is reading a passage, process-oriented objectives would indicate whether learners are expected to use skimming, scanning, guessing, inferring, or predicting techniques. Process-oriented objectives are generally concerned with indicating how learners are expected to perform a language behavior. Content-related objectives specify the linguistic and communicative content which learners are expected to cover, including interest in topics and communicative language functions. These content-related objectives are often presented in terms of topics about which learners will listen, speak, read, and write. For instance, popular topics in Moroccan ALT programs include talking about education, food, clothes, culture, environment, health, technology, and human rights, to name but a few. Content-related objectives can also be presented in terms of a list of language functions which should be performed in specific situations, such as asking for directions, making requests, complaining, apologizing, and asking for clarification. Proficiency-related objectives offer a description of different levels of proficiency. These objectives describe the development of learners' proficiency in the four macro-language skills, namely listening, speaking, reading, and writing. They enable teachers and program developers to create a set of performance indicators or standards that facilitate the task of identifying the level of learners, whether they are beginners, intermediate, or advanced. Syllabus design is the third process of curriculum development. A syllabus generally aims at selecting, presenting, and organizing either the language content, including grammar, vocabulary, functions, and skills, or the teaching procedures such as activities, tasks, exercises, and techniques to be used in teaching. Thus, according to Richards, one can identify two main categories of syllabi: the linguistic syllabus and the procedural syllabus. On the one hand, the linguistic syllabus focuses on presenting the language content to be taught. Essentially, the language content consists of grammar, vocabulary, functions, and pronunciation. Thus, two types of linguistic syllabi are found in the literature of language teaching: the structural syllabus and the functional syllabus. The structural syllabus is one that is organized around grammar and vocabulary lessons that prioritize accuracy over fluency. Such syllabi are similar to the ones adopted by the audiolingual and oral situational methods and the silent way method. The functional syllabus is organized around a number of language functions that aim at developing communicative competence based on fluency. Functional syllabi are often associated with the notional functional approach, communicative language teaching, and community language learning, for instance. The procedural syllabus, on the other hand, is not organized around the language content. It is developed on specifying activities, tasks, and teaching procedures or techniques which teachers are expected to use in their classrooms. Procedural syllabi specify the teaching practices and the learning processes instead of the language content. Examples of these syllabi are adopted in the task-based language teaching. The fourth process of curriculum development involves choosing a suitable teaching methodology. The choice of a teaching methodology or method to be used depends highly on three major dimensions: a linguistic dimension, a psycholinguistic dimension, and a teaching dimension. A linguistic dimension indicates the view to language. There are three main views to language which affect the choice of the language element that are to be included in a syllabus: the structural view, the functional view, and the mentalist view. The structural view is based on the correctness of teaching grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation. Adopting this view would lead to a structural syllabus as in the audiolingual method. The functional view focuses more on using language as a means of communication that allows to perform different functions in different real-life contexts, thus leaning more towards a fluent use of language. Such view is evident in the communicative approach and task-based approach. The mentalist view to language states that language learning can be used to improve the learner's emotional, cognitive, and metacognitive skills by encouraging critical thinking, problem-solving, creativity, and autonomy. Such a view is seen in the silent way, suggestopedia, and task-based language learning. A psycholinguistic dimension indicates the view to learning. In order to design a teaching method, curriculum developers must determine their view to learning. There are many views to how languages are learned. These have been known as second language acquisition theories. Therefore, we find that some methods adopt the behaviorist view, such as the audiolingual method, the total physical response, and the oral situational approach. Some methods adopt a cognitive approach, while others opt for the social interactionist or social constructivist approach. One may observe that most methods which use a structural view to language often opt for the behaviorist view to learning, while others which use a functionalist view to language usually adopt a social constructivist or interactionist view to learning. The teaching dimension specifies the view to teaching. A method also presents a number of teaching techniques and strategies which teachers should use to achieve the general objectives of the method. For instance, the audiolingual method, which adopts a behaviorist perspective on learning, emphasizes the importance of drillings, repetitions, imitations, and error correction as major teaching techniques. The communicative language teaching uses interpersonal communication activities such as role plays, conversations, problem-solving activities. Suggestopedia uses music and yoga techniques to filter out all negative emotions that may prevent learners from learning. The last process of curriculum development is evaluation. The goal of this final process is to find out whether the goals and objectives of a language teaching program are being attained. The evaluation of a curriculum or a program helps to determine the extent to which it is effective. In this respect, two types of evaluation are identified: formative evaluation and summative evaluation. Formative evaluation is an ongoing process that is carried out throughout the different stages of curriculum development and implementation. Its purpose is to diagnose potential problems and weaknesses of the language program and suggest solutions to these problems. Formative evaluation leads to applying some modifications and revisions to the program or curriculum in order to improve its quality and ensure higher efficiency. Formative evaluation of a language curriculum addresses several issues such as the appropriateness of the program's objectives, the extent to which teachers are equipped with necessary skills to teach the new program, or the extent to which textbooks and other instructional materials are effective and suitable to the learners. Summative evaluation usually comes at the end of a program or a curriculum. Unlike formative evaluation, summative evaluation does not try to fix problems of an existing program. It actually measures its effectiveness in order to make a final decision about the program, whether to continue using the same program in case it has succeeded to attain its objectives, or to opt for an educational reform if the program failed to meet its objectives. The decision is based on evidence and data collected throughout the period of implementing the program. The implementation of curriculum development does not always follow the same linear order. Although it is only logical to start with needs analysis and conclude with summative evaluation, the order of the other three processes of goal setting, syllabus design, and methodology is highly optional. To better understand the different strategies that are used in curriculum development, Richards refers to the dimensions associated with each one of these processes. The process of goal setting determines the overall objectives of the curriculum. In so doing, it determines the desired outcomes and the expected final products of the teaching-learning process. Thus, goal setting also explicitly has the output dimension. The process of syllabus design has an input dimension, as it specifies the content to be used as input for the teaching and learning. The methodology defines how the input is to be taught. It determines techniques, procedures, and strategies that facilitate the attainment of the objectives. Therefore, it has the dimension of the process. Developing a language curriculum may start with determining what to teach, followed by determining how to teach it, and conclude with assessing the product. The choice of this order is called the forward design. Such design is used in developing curricula of the audiolingual method, oral situational approach, and content-based instruction. Another strategy of curriculum development is to start with defining the teaching-learning processes or methodology and then let them determine the input and the learning outcomes. This is called the central design. This type of curriculum design emerged in the 70s of the 20th century with the appearance of the designer methods, which rejected the idea of a predetermined syllabus such as the total physical response, silent way, the natural approach, and the community language learning. The third strategy that is used in curriculum development is known as the backward design. It starts with determining the learning outcomes, expected products, and objectives, and then work backward to decide on a suitable syllabus and methodology which will facilitate the achievement of these outcomes. The backward design is more popular in the task-based language teaching, competency-based language teaching, and standards-based approach. In conclusion, curriculum development includes 5 processes, referring to needs analysis, goal setting, syllabus design, methodology, and evaluation. Each one of these processes plays a central role in improving the quality of the teaching-learning process. Historically speaking, there were times when one process was given priority over others, and this has led to the emergence of different curriculum development designs. The forward design has given importance to the syllabus input. The central design has drawn attention to the methodological processes, and the backward design has stressed the importance of goal setting and predefining learning outcomes. Needs analysis and evaluation processes have been taken for granted and considered crucial in all 3 designs due to their role in diagnosing the needs and evaluating the effectiveness of the curriculum.